Hello everyone and welcome to Project Auto. Today we're going to be showing you guys how to install an Android head unit inside of a Chrysler 300 between the years of 2005 and 2010. I'll be doing this on my Chrysler 300 Touring, which is a 2006 model. This head unit is available from elementotuning.com. I'll have a link in the description where you guys can check it out. Here's what it looks like as a result. Alright, so before we begin, we want to start by unplugging the battery. Anytime you're working on anything electrical in the car, you want to make sure to get rid of any charges that may be throughout the vehicle. You don't want to put yourself in danger. Also, there are security systems tied to the head unit and whatnot, so we don't want to cause any more problems like the car not turning on after we're done. So we're going to start by removing the positive terminal from the battery. So the battery isn't in the trunk, in case you don't know. Some people don't know that. So you just access it by lifting this flap here, and it's by the rear tire well. Then you're going to take a 10mm socket here, and you're just going to loosen up the bolt that holds the terminal to the connector, and pretty much just remove the connector. You might have to wiggle it free, especially if you don't use it that often. And once you get that taken off, make sure to place it to the side where it won't be touching any pieces of metal. Now we're going to move inside to the car and we're going to start accessing the head unit. So we're going to start by removing the trim along the head unit. So everything here that you see in the center console is actually attached to this trim. And by removing this, we'll be able to access the stuff behind it so that we can pull it out. So you're going to need a pry tool for sure for this demonstration here. It's going to be probably one of the most important tools in this project. So if you don't have a set, I can throw a link in the description for a set of those. I've got some perfect sets that work out, and I was really glad to have these. It made the job really easy. You don't want to be using screwdrivers and stuff like this, especially since a lot of these pieces of plastic are fragile, and with a screwdriver you're going to end up breaking them. You're going to start at pretty much the bottom corners, and as you can see, as I work my way up here with the pry tool, there are clips in the back that are popping up, and once we work our way around, we'll be able to pretty much loosen up and pull out the trim itself. So once all the clips are loose, we're gonna kind of start to pull back the whole panel little by little. As you can see, pretty much everything's gonna come forward except for the radio, aka the head unit itself. Now there are quite a few clips here, or plugs I should say rather, that are plugged into each part of the unit itself. So you've got the climate control plugs on the bottom, you have a clock plug at the top, and you have the traction control hazards, whatever section, right underneath the clock there that also has a plug. So in total, I think there's 3 plugs on the very bottom and 2 plugs at the top. Here I kind of try to get a better angle for you. Once I actually pull them apart, you'll be able to see a little bit better what I'm talking about. So you can see here where I've unplugged everything, and I can pull the head unit out. So this white one here is the clock plug, and you'll simply push on the bottom of that and pull it out. Then you've got this traction control light plug, and this one also you'll be pushing down at the top and pulling it out. And some of these are a little difficult to get to, and they might take a little bit of effort, especially if you have bigger hands. Everything's going to be a little harder, but Here at the bottom we've got the 3 plugs that I was talking about. Now if you have a 300C model or maybe an SRT, there might be a few more buttons back here as they have dual climate control and whatnot, but this is what I had for mine. The middle 2 clips here are simply push down at the top, and they're pretty easy. The larger clip, there's a little red tab you have to pull before you pull it out. So now we're going to move on to taking the radio out, and there's 4 screws on each corner that are holding it in. They're just Phillips screws. Make sure to actually get the black screws, not the gold bronze style screws. Those would be the wrong ones to take out. So we're just gonna work on these 4 screws here, and once we get those out, you should be able to pretty much pull it free. Now of course there are plugs in the back of this, so we're just going to pull the radio at an angle that we can kind of access those plugs and pull it back. I believe it's just one very large central plug. Like I said, depending on the model, if you have the stock navigation system, there might be a few more plugs that you might have to take care of. But for this model specifically, there was just a large plug to take out. Okay, so now that we've got everything out, we're gonna move to the actual frame around the head unit here, and what we're gonna have to do is transfer all the old parts like the climate control and vents over to the bezel for the new head unit. So you can see here we've got the new head unit, and it has those empty slots there, which we're gonna switch everything over to. You can see a few little differences, but we're going to be grabbing primarily these 5 pieces and switching them over to the new bezel. So once we get to the back here, you can see that these vents, they're held on by a couple little clips. It's pretty much 3 on each side. Well, I guess I should say 4 on each side. There is a metal banded clip one, and those in theory you don't have to remove, but you will have to remove them for the install anyways, as I will mention here in a moment. But those are simply push clips, so you're going to have to push in the little tab near the center, and then you'll be pulling them out. As far as the climate control goes, we have 4 little screws here, and they're just hex heads. And they're going to be, of course, 1 at each corner. I'm not exactly sure what size these are, but they were the same size as the head of my screwdriver without a bit in it. So that's what I will be using to remove them. Alright, and so once you get all the screws out, it should come up pretty easily, and pretty much here is the unit, what it looks like, the clips you've got on the back here, or the plugs rather, and we're just going to put this to the side. Now we're going to work on removing the clock. It actually uses 2 of the same screws that you just used to remove the climate control. So pretty much we're just going to unscrew each of the sides, and it should pop up pretty easily. Sometimes there will be screwdrivers that might not be able to fit into here, so you're going to need some low profile ones, which may be the case, to squeeze in between. Or if you don't have one, I would suggest maybe trying to remove the vents first to gain access. Either way, you're going to have to kind of squeeze your fingers in between there if you can't remove the clock, so just kind of try a few different methods, whatever may work best for you. Right, so now we're going to take off the little hazard light slash traction control button. Once again, this is pretty much going to use the same style screws. And like I mentioned, it's a lot easier to take off the clock in this part first because you can gain access to the inner clips for the climate vents. There are two screws that are holding this button down, one at the top, which I just removed, and one at the bottom, which you will see here shortly. And you might want to take a little time to clean off some of these pieces. Even though you won't be seeing the back ends of these, it doesn't hurt to take a moment and wipe them down. So now we're going to start removing the climate vent clips. Here I'm using the pry tool once again. It's not absolutely necessary. You can also use your fingers. But basically what you want to do is you want to pull back the clip while pulling up with your other hand. See if I can get a little zoomed in image here, but you can see I've popped them out of their slots. And we're going to work pretty much from one side to the other here. And like I said, while you're removing the clip, you want to be a little gentle too because these are plastic. You don't want to break anything, but you want to apply a lifting force to it so that way once it becomes loose you can just pull it right out. Once you get all the clips, it comes off easy and you can just kind of see the whole unit itself. Alright, so here we have both bezels. There is a little bit of a pattern texture on the OEM bezel. It's got a couple little black dots, and it also has this tray at the bottom. Because the screen is a relatively large size touchscreen, you're actually going to lose that little tray on the bottom. It's not really that important. I don't remember putting anything even in there for most of the time. So for me, it's not a big deal. You might just have to move a couple things to the glove box, but I think that's a small price to pay to have a nicer screen. Here's the back end of the head unit. You can see it's a lot more thinner. You don't have that huge radio back end. Obviously, technology has improved a lot since then. So now we're going to start putting the parts back, and installation is pretty much the reverse of the install. Alright, so here is the finished product after putting everything together. You can see that everything fits perfectly and it looks pretty original. That was part of one of the reasons why one would choose this kit. I chose it because it looks a little more original than slapping just a random, even ones that are made with bezels for this. This one looks a little more OEM, and it's just got a really clean finish on it. So here is kind of like the back of it, the unit, and also the wires that come with it. Now we're gonna go over a lot of this stuff in the next video. I'm gonna cut this here for part 1, and we're gonna get to the wiring stuff in the next video, and we might go to 3 videos as well. So that's all. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to check out the next video, and I'll see you guys next time.